Hello, this is Suggested Systems 3, building a 303 in Eurorack, but particularly focusing on enhancing it with mutable instruments, warps, and an LS1 Lightstrip. Building a 303 in Modular can be as deep or as simple as you choose to make it. Now obviously you can create a 303 from all of the requisite parts, oscillators, filters, mixers and so on. But of course if you get fully into the multitudinous weeds, there are many specificities to the voicing and sequencing of the 303 that make it hard to replicate. Of course that never stopped us trying to replicate a musical easel in the past. But the difference here is that there are off-the-shelf 303 voices and 303 sequencers, the Acid Lab M303 and the fantastic Transistor Sounds Lab Stepper Acid, both of which, together, just add up to make a kind of instant modular 303. Now, of course, second only to purchasing an actual 303, this is probably one of the most expensive ways that you could possibly hope to do it. There are £129 303s in the world. Minor Melodies, why on earth would you do this? But we can do things that aren't possible with an off-the-shelf or clone 303. Namely, we can enhance the voice. Now, not like I would ever pretend to suggest I know better than Taro Kikumoto. I don't. But it does present an interesting thought. If you're building a voice in Modular, what would you add to it? What's the one module that you can add to your modules to get more out of them? And I would kind of suggest that we go in two different directions. That is, voice enhancement and control. Now, there are obviously lots of LFOs and envelopes and things like this, but what's interesting is this idea of finger control, a kind of malleable hand that you can program. And what the LS1 Lightstrip is that by moving my finger on this little capacitive strip, I can send voltage. And what I'm doing is I'm sending the voltage in to control the filter of the 303. By far the knob that wears out the most on a 303. But there is a couple of very cool things. One, if I push this little plate at the bottom, I can latch. But probably the coolest thing that it can do is this. If you have your finger on it, you use another finger, and by pushing on this little rec thing, it blinks. And what it does is record your motion. Absolutely amazing. So it copies what you did. It has a relatively short memory for such things, so that now my cutoff is being manually squidged, or automatically squidged, by my manual input. Wicked. So you're just free to like do other stuff. I wish I had like 10 of these. So then, warps. Warps is like an oscillator expander that complexifies signals. So you remember how when we made a Buchla music easel, we made a complex oscillator made up of two oscillators working together in a variety of combinations? Well, like the warps is like your dream second oscillator. It is an oscillator. It has its own oscillator with multiple shapes built in. And if I turn this timbre control completely anti-clockwise on this first mode, I am now hearing another oscillator that's built into warps with multiple shapes. And there is a pitch control here that I can turn, because what I'm doing is I'm sending a sequence from the stepper acid and I'm sending it via a multiple to both the M303 and the warps here, so that both the M303 warps' pitch is changed by the stepper acid. But what is really slick about the M303 particularly, and what's cool to explore here, is that if you take the VCO out from M303, you can tap the oscillator, feed it into something else, and then return it modified, as I am doing here, into this VCF in. So I take the M303's oscillator out, warp it, add to it, so I can have dual oscillator sounds, not possible on an actual 303. And then via this is actually a trimmer, just letting me trim the input volume so I'm not distorting the M303, except when I want to, and then returning it back to the M303 modified. Pretty slick. Now, the whole thing about warps is it has many modes. They are outlined in the very handy little guide that comes with it. Crossfading, cross-folding, diode ring modulation, digital ring modulation, exclusive OR modulation, that sounds interesting, and comparison and rectification, and a vocoder as well. Wonderful. Many different ways, and also the original waveform. So what this allows me to do is to enhance a 303, make it do more than a 303 can. And then by augmenting it with effects and drum machines and a bit of distortion and drive, it's an illustration of how with just a few simple modules, you can make a jamming system that has more range. And then you're off to the races. A very subtle blend of warps and the original M303. Really nice. So nice. And let's change the pitch. Nice. So nice being able to do two oscillator 303 sounds. I know that's heresy. It is heresy. But it enhances what one box is able to do. The reason the TR8 doesn't suck is faders. Whoever put faders on the TR8 is a genius. But if you play live, that is genius. So then other modes on warps, including cross-folding. The carrier and the modulator are summed. A tiny bit of cross-modulation product is added to spice things up, and the resulting signal is sent to a wavefolder, the amount controlled by timbre. So it sums the two, and then that wavefolds. I could turn this off, and then what I'm hearing is just wavefolded 303. Oh, that's nice. Ugh. Ugh. Super dope. Of course, I can then use this to control timbre. So now LS1 controls the timbre, the wavefolding, so it's being wavefolded differently, being an option. Oh my god. Oh yeah. And the sun is shining.